Welcome everyone again to How to Write a Best-Selling Book. Robert Allen here, and this is session number 3. During this session, we're going to talk about how you create a title for a book that is legendary. And if you look at the top list of the top 25 books that I shared with you in the first session, all the amazing books, Your Erroneous Zones, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, all of those titles, they had some buzz. They were memorable. They were attractive. People wanted that title and they remembered that title. So today we're going to be talking about how you create a title like that. And when I talk to lots of people, they come up to me and they share with me their title. And immediately I know that it's a losing title. Just hearing it and just having them show me maybe a picture of what they would like that title to be, or sending me an email with the title in it. Since I've looked at tens of thousands of titles in my career, I know which ones work and which ones don't. And when you are in the media, when you're trying to promote a book for somebody, you have a radio show or a television show, they receive hundreds of books every single week showing at the producer's desk to be able to select which books should go on television, which books should be promoted on the radio, which guests should they have to have on their show. Well, these producers have looked at thousands and thousands and thousands of titles. And as these books come in, they look at them in literally a few seconds. They can decide, no, don't want that one on our show. No, don't want that one. Oh, this one seems to resonate with what's going on right now in the world. This would probably be a good education for our listeners or our viewers. And so within just a few seconds, they can make that decision. Well, the same thing is going to happen for you when you start trying to do some promotion for your book. When somebody wants to invite you to do a podcast, they're going to look at your title and they're going to make an instant decision whether you belong on their show or not. That's why it's so absolutely important for you to be able to select the right title and the right cover. Because as I've said previously, 75% of the success of a book in the bookstore is the way it looks, the cover across the room. When they see the cover, it attracts people. And they say, let's have a look at that or not. So this is a very, very important decision. Your message words, things that you write inside your book, are obviously very important to you and to your reader. But the marketing words, that's what happens on the outside of the book, attracts them inside the book so you get a chance to transform their life. So this conversation is extremely important. And let's talk about it today. Let me share with you my screen. I think I lucked into my first title, which became an all-time #1 New York Times bestseller, because the title was so good at first. I didn't do any testing on it. It was just like a title that kind of downloaded into my mind. As I was driving between cities one day, just the title just popped into my head. Nothing down. How to buy real estate with little or no money down. How much more simple can you get? And that title was what I took to my artists to have them create a cover for me. So when I went to the booksellers convention that year, I wanted to show a mock-up of what I thought the title should be. So I spent $600, this was 42 years ago actually, and $600 at that time was a lot of money to me. And I designed the cover based upon working with my artist, David Kanan. Thank you, David. And he designed a great cover for me. When I went to the booksellers convention to market my book, I showed the cover to lots of different publishers. And because the cover was so beautifully done, it was prepared, it was ready to go, they could immediately decide whether they wanted to buy that book or not. Now, the preparation of that cover wasn't necessarily for the cover of the book eventually. It was the only purpose of that one cover. And it cost me, like I said, a big chunk of money to have it designed for me, was because I was trying to sell it to a publisher. Now, the publisher never did use that cover. I think they should have. It was a fantastic cover. But they didn't, but it accomplished its purpose. It sold the manuscript to Simon & Schuster, who published it, and within a few months after publication, actually a few weeks after publication, it became a #1 New York Times bestseller. So what I did is the process I'm going to have you do. You're going to design your cover. You're going to do it first before you write a single word to go inside it. Well, why do I want to put maybe the cart before the horse? You might think that I should get the manuscript done first, and then I do the last part is to add the cover to it. No, we're going to have the cover first, because I want you to believe that this is possible for you. I want you to literally see yourself as a best-selling author, because we're talking about writing a best-selling book here. So remember, this checklist I'm going to take you through step by step by step. First of all, you've got your message, what you want to say, and I want you to say that in a fun, exciting way. I'll share with you my messaging here in just a few minutes, but the bottom line is for you, how do you want to say it in I use the word sexy, a way that attracts attention, right? And then who do you want to say that message to? And then how are you going to attract them? By a cover or a title. Since we're going to be talking about that today, your title or your book cover. So I take one of my book covers. This is the 1 Minute Millionaire. I pull off the cover jacket, and I see there are lots of different pieces of it. There's the main cover on the front cover, and then there's the description of what's inside the book. Now, many of you will be doing a self-published book, and it may not have a cover jacket like this. If it's published with a traditional publisher and it's a hardcover book, they'll do a cover jacket like this. Many people will create a soft cover book, and usually the title of the book will be on the soft cover, and it won't look like this. There will not be a jacket inside and out. There will be a back cover and a front cover, but when you look at a traditionally published hardcover book, it has these various different pieces to it. In this case, the pictures of myself and my co-author, Mr. Mark Victor Hansen, a description on the inside jacket, need cash fast? Great question, isn't it? And so it pulls somebody in and it causes them to decide, do I want to buy this book or not? The design, the beginning design for you is to literally take a blank piece of paper and rough it out. I want you to write the title to your book and put your name underneath it. Why? Because I want you to feel what it feels like to see your name on the cover of your book. On the very top, I want you to put a quote from a famous person. You can put a quote from me if you want to. It's not something that you'll eventually publish to the world, but I want you to imagine that somebody in your arena that happens to be famous in your niche, that anybody in that niche would recognize that name. Therefore, I want you to write their name, write a quote of theirs and make up the quote. Don't share it with the world, because that would not be legal. That would not be correct. That would not be moral. But what I want you to do is to imagine. This is about imagination. I want you to imagine if somebody you really respected and admired in your niche, an expert that you know and you look up to, have them create, actually imagine what kind of words you'd like to see that author say about your book, a quote from them about you, and just make it up. Once again, this is about tapping into your internal machine of imagination. And then there's a little starburst down there in the bottom right-hand corner. A lot of times it'll be, it'll say bestseller, or it'll say, get the free information that when you buy the book, you get this free information, etc. It might be a quote from somebody. So there's a starburst there. When you look at book covers, if you're going to be a best-selling author, you should look at book covers and notice how they're designed and what kind of ingredients are there into a best-selling book cover. They'll be on the cover jacket, a book summary, and some bullet points. What are the hot points that you would want a person to read? A lot of times people don't want to read the details on a book cover, but they'll read the bullet points like headlines. So you just kind of lay it out. Just don't worry about the artwork. You're not going to show this to anybody. This is just for you. And therefore, if your design isn't all that pretty, don't worry about it. This is, once again, it's to tap into the imaginational power that you have inside you. And then the question is, what makes your information revolutionary? This is a question you should be asking yourself anyway. You know, if you're going to be competing with 2 million other books this year and with maybe 1,000 books in your narrow niche, what's going to make your book stand out from the other 999 in your niche? Why is your book revolutionary? Most authors never ask that question. You know, they go, well, I want to write a book. It's about my expertise, and I'm going to write this subject matter. And it's pretty boring, frankly, because when you ask the question, what makes it revolutionary, it forces you to decide, how do I make my book stand out? How do I make my content stand out? Why is my content different? Sometimes if you've already written the book and the book is kind of ordinary, then you hear me talk to you about this already and you go, my gosh, I really didn't do that when I wrote the book. Sometimes you have to go back and rewrite it because you have to reorganize it and rethink it. Why is this revolutionary? And what promise can I make in what short period of time to deliver the promise? And in order to make it revolutionary, you have to push the envelope. You know, so when I said, send me to any city, take away my wallet, give me a $100 bill, and in 72 hours I buy an excellent piece of real estate using none of my own money, that was revolutionary. In a short period of time, I was saying, you could drop me into a city and I'd buy a property with no money, no cash, no credit, no collateral, nothing that the banker thinks that you need. Did I know how to do that before I said it? No. I thought up the revolutionary promise first. And then when I marketed the book, I made sure that my promise was in the advertising, that I'm going to show you how to buy a property in 72 hours. It made my book stand out from everybody else. Nobody was making that kind of promise. Now you have to be careful about the promises you make, of course. In my case, I pulled it off, and I'll share that story with you in a few minutes. The point I'm trying to make here is I want you to be thinking about, why is my book revolutionary? What do I mean by revolutionary? It means you're going to revolt against everything that's out there. The other 999 books, you're basically saying, I'm better than them. I'm faster than them. I'm more effective than them. I am revolutionary. You can throw all those 999 books away. This book is the book you need. It makes you make a decision that you want to be the best. And when you look at the back cover of your book, you're going to have quotes from some other famous people. You're going to have to run them down like I do for my books. It takes time and effort to ask people to give you a quote. And a lot of times they'll say, no, I won't. All you need is a couple of good quotes on the back of your book jacket, and then some bullet points that are there. And then finally, the bio of you. Here's the question I want to ask you. What makes you the only expert on this narrow niche? The only person in the world who can talk about your subject in your way. Now, it's a very broad and very strong question for you. I'm going to ask you to niche yourself in such a way that you are the only one who can talk about it. Maybe you're the only one in your city that talks about it, but in one way or another, you're the only. And eventually I want you to be the only in the world. You know, so for myself, you know, I'm the only person who's ever done that challenge. Send me to any city, take away my wallet, give me a $100 bill and 72 hours. Nobody's ever done that. And before or since, it's pretty ballsy to do. I'm the only one. So the reason that you're working with me here today is because I'm one of the only #1 New York Times bestselling authors that you're ever going to be trained by. Because I've done it over and over and over again. I've helped many other people accomplish it as well. That makes me very, very special. I am the only one who can come into your life and to teach you what I'm teaching you right now. So that makes me the only. What makes you the only? These are profound questions that you don't have to have the answer to immediately. It may take you through the entire series of our calls together. It might take you a month or two after that as you're still pondering it. And finally, it'll dawn on you. This makes me so unique, so special. Nobody has this moniker. Nobody can say who I am, because I'm the only one who can do this. What makes me the only one for Nothing Down is I'm the only guy who's ever trained, the first guy who's ever talked about Nothing Down and how to buy real estate with little or no money down. Everybody's copied me since. Nobody was teaching it before me. So it makes me the only. And when I'm the only, if anybody tries to copy me, they essentially make me more famous, because my message, which is so broad in this particular subject, is the only book, the only major book about that, the only #1 New York Times bestseller about that. So if somebody else publishes a book with Nothing Down in their title, it sells my book, because when people go Google it, they're going to find me, not them. So what I'm trying to say to you is figure out what makes you the only, what makes your message revolutionary. And then I want you to create a cover, literally like this. When I went to Malaysia and taught a group of people about how to sell information, one of the pieces of our seminar was how to become a best-selling author. And so we gave them big, huge pieces of paper and some colored pens, and we gave them an hour, and we said, write your title. I want to see it. I want you to draw the art on it. Don't worry about it being perfect. Frankly, if you don't know how to draw, then don't draw. Just write the words. But everybody created their cover like this, and we stuck them on the walls, and then we had people vote. And as you can see, the little yellow and green and pink sticky notes, that means this person got that many votes. And you'll notice that some of the ones on the wall here got 0 votes. In other words, I let them choose their top 3. And therefore, they had to go through, and out of maybe 50 covers that they are looking at here and voting on, they had to decide only 3 votes. And therefore, some people didn't get any votes. Some people got lots of votes. What I was trying to prove to them was that some titles just don't work. Now, of course, this was an audience that may not have been their perfect avatar, the perfect ideal customer for them. So I made sure they understood that for this audience, these votes were for these kinds of people in this audience, but they needed to do a lot more testing besides this. And I wanted to have them have a real experience of doing this. And I've done this particular exercise all over the world. Here are the proven winners. These were the winners that won, and I actually paid them, I think, $100 US for the winner. You can see this one gentleman has most of the votes. These were the 6 top winners. Now, then we had them stand in front of the audience. I think this was another group here. When we did it in Italy, we had smaller pieces of paper, but once again, the same exact exercise. We had them check on their covers here, which one won, and somebody won. Most people didn't get any votes. And I wanted a person to experience what that's like, to not get any votes, and to realize that more than likely their title, compared to the 2 million other books that are being sold here, or maybe the 1,000 of them in your narrow niche, if you're not getting any votes, if people are not really voting with their wallet to buy your book, there's a reason for that. And that's because the title just doesn't work. And you've got to do lots of research on that. Here I am in Shanghai, China. And they are so excited. They are trying to find the best-selling title in this exercise. And each person is voting for just 3. And they learn an awful lot from that experience. We don't have the opportunity to do that between you and me. But what I want you to realize is that I want you to nonetheless do this exercise. Draw it out on a blank piece of paper so you can see your name on the cover you design. Now, eventually, this cover that you are designing, you're going to give to an artist. And the artist is going to take your very, very rough drawing and is going to turn that into something pretty, something beautiful. And, you know, most people say, well, I can't afford that. I mean, I don't have enough money to invest into a cover design. Well, frankly, I'm going to have you design your own using some software I'm going to share with you, totally free. And this software can help you design your own cover. You got to make your title stand out, though, before you do any final designing. It's got to stand out. How? Well, once again, just go look at all the best-selling titles today. Go to the New York Times right now and look at the titles for today. Which ones are standing out today? Why do they stand out? Because they've got some of these characteristics. They're specific, they're unique. Some of them are radical, they're simple, revolutionary, outrageous. Some of them are different and interesting and fresh, new, cutting edge, bold. This would be, some of these adjectives would describe your bestsellers from today. You can go to Amazon.com and look up the bestsellers on Amazon.com today. There are today, in fact, every single hour, the list changes. There are 100 top best-selling titles today on Amazon. So you should go there and look at them, and then look at their covers and notice why they are in the top 100. And more than likely, because of one of these reasons. Now, what is your hook? You got to have something that hooks them. Remember, the title is maybe not your full message. Your title is the hook that brings them in so that you can change their life with the content that's inside your book. But if the outside doesn't have a good hook, they'll never get to the inside. And a lot of people are very, very nervous about being too pushy or being too bold, too, what I want to call it, too salesy, you know. They say, well, that's not me. You know, my message is not like that. Well, you're going to have to change your thinking on that. You're going to have to reach out and attract somebody because you have 1,000 titles you're competing with, and look at your competition. They're going to have a title that's attracting, that pulls people in. And your title has to do that. Remember, the subject of our conversation today is how to write a best-selling book. So this is an ingredient of the best-selling recipe. So don't leave this ingredient out, right? You have to have a powerful promise. Perhaps, from my case, it was, you know, nothing down. How to buy real estate with little or no money down. It's a very powerful promise. It solves an urgent problem. And many people miss this one. They don't go for the urgent problem. They just write a generic book, generally with general solutions in it. But the title is designed to attract somebody into your world so you can solve the one urgent problem that forces them to Google. And when they Google, are they going to find you? Here's some titles that you've probably heard of before. And maybe you'd say, well, I'd never promote a book with that title. That's just not me. That's just not my languaging. Well, that's because that's not you. But this Jen person, that is her. That's who she is. She's a badass. And she is going to basically say how you can become one also. This one attracts her audience to this book. It may not be your audience, but I want you to realize that her audience resonates with this. And they bought it in the big, big numbers. Here's another title, Get Out of Your Head, Stop the Spiral of Toxic Thoughts. So the title is fun, and what makes this one stand out? It's kind of like a cliche, but in a cliche in a fun way. You know, people who have toxic thoughts are going to resonate with this book. I personally don't have those kind of thoughts. I've been able to manage my way out of that kind of negative thinking, but many people do. So they're going to resonate with this message. You've probably heard of this one. This is not a title that I would promote for any of my books. I would be embarrassed if my family saw my name underneath this title. But I can tell you what, this is a multi-million copy selling title. It's been copied by lots of other people. And the second person who uses that F word in the title of a book, and the third one, the fourth one, their numbers are going to go way down. This was the number one. And the counterintuitive approach to living a good life. Counterintuitive means the opposite of what you would normally think. Just everything about this title makes you wonder, wonder what do you say? It creates curiosity. Look at the little starburst there, author of the new book, Everything is Effed Up, a book about hope, the #1 New York Times bestseller, which is on the cover there. This cover works. The color works. There's no art on it. It's just, well, a little bit of art. That splotch for the U in this one. I'm not asking you to be this bold. This may not be you, but it might be you. It might be you. Yeah, this is who I am, and this is what I believe. This person believes this. They're authentic. It's just the way they would sell it. Now, I could try to copy this, and my audience, as soon as they realize who I am and I'm saying it this way, they'd go, that's not the Robert Allen I know. That's not authentic. He would never say that. And it's true, I wouldn't. But some people do. What all I'm asking you to do is to create a title that attracts attention, that is in alignment with your message and with who you are. Here's a great one. Timothy Ferriss, The 4-Hour Workweek. What a promise. Is that an incredible promise? His quote is from Dr. Stuart Friedman. This is a whole new ball game. Highly recommend it. The 4-Hour Workweek. How could you have a better title than that? Everybody has a 48-hour work week, 40, 50-hour work week. How do you do that in 4 hours? Escape 9 to 5. Live anywhere and join the new rich. Whoa. Now, he tested this title a lot, over and over and over again, to come up with these exact words so they resonated with his exact audience. Powerful, powerful title. And he's become amazingly famous over it. Here's my friend, Brian Tracy. Brian Tracy and I used to live across the street from each other. Our families were raised together. I know Brian very well. An amazing, unbelievably creative, productive human being. He's in his mid-70s. He's written 85, 90 books. He's exhausting. I can't even imagine anybody writing so many books. And I love this man, I really do. Talk about a great title. This book has sold 1.6 million copies. Do you want to know why it's sold so many copies? Because its title is spectacular. Eat that frog. He's trying to tell you, do the worst possible thing first. Get it off your to-do list. If it's on your to-do list to eat a frog, then eat the frog first. And get it done. Check it off your list. Stop procrastinating. Great message. Really simple. 1.6 million copies. That's the reason for it. So I want you to have a powerful promise. And the promise is to solve an urgent problem or to satisfy a burning passion. And some people are burning with things they want to accomplish in their life. And they're willing to educate themselves to solve this issue that they're dealing with. For me, I wanted to become a millionaire. I wanted to become financially free. I went to seminars. I bought dozens and dozens of books. I fed my passion with all kinds of study. My very first real estate seminar, there was a seminar in Miami. I got a letter in the mail inviting me to come to a real estate convention in Miami. I was living in Provo, Utah, as a single man with a bunch of other guys in a single student apartment. And when I got this flyer, I wasn't married yet, but I knew I wanted to invest in a lot of real estate. I think I'd bought my first property, maybe my second. And I got in my car and I drove to Miami. And I got my buddies in my apartment to pay for the gas, and we drove to Miami. It was a couple of 1,000 miles. In other words, I was so passionate about it. I wanted to go wherever I needed to go to learn the information I needed to learn. And some people are like that. I was. Are you? If you are, then you know what it's like. Maybe it's the reason that you invested in this program right here, because you've always wanted to be an author and you want to be a best-selling author. And therefore you've invested. You took your credit card out of your wallet or your purse and you said, yeah, let's go for it. Let's learn, let's do. This passion, I want you to resonate with it for yourself. Like, what things turn you on like that? Because the people that you're going to communicate with, the hot ones, are going to be just like that. And they're going to want your information. And they're not going to care what your credentials are. They're only going to care is, do you have a solution to satisfy this passion that they have? Or do you have the solution to solve this urgent problem that they have? And therefore, you don't have to worry about your credentials, whether you have a degree in anything. Your credentials are, you have the solution. That's your credentials. So some people are just hungry to find out about their purpose in life. Why am I here? Where did I come from? Where am I going? How do I discover this? So Rick Warren, he's the big gorilla on this particular subject, and it's sold millions of copies, 34 million copies. Does that wake you up at all? Now, the title is really kind of boring, frankly. The purpose-driven life. What on earth am I here for? Because when a person is passionate about a subject, like I told you, I think in the last session, that a weak message dropped in front of the right audience is better than a strong message in front of the wrong audience. So you drop this more general message in front of a hot audience, and they're going to want it. And therefore, this spread all over the United States. Huge bestseller. Do you see why? It solves a problem. Rich Dad, Poor Dad. His series of books have sold 40 million copies. What the rich teach their kids about money that the poor and the middle class do not. Celebrating 20 years as the #1 personal finance book of all time. I know Robert, an amazing guy. Bottom line is, this title works. It's big. It's designed. Look at the purple color. I remember when I picked up the copy of this book myself, I was in Perth, Australia, in a bookstore. And wherever I'm in the world, I'm in bookstores because I love books. And so I'm in this Perth, Australia bookstore, and there is this purple color. I said, I know, Robert. Oh, it's Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Gotta have it. Bought it right there on the spot. Does your book have a title like that? If you need love, then Gary Chapman talks about the 5 love languages, the secret to love that lasts. And for someone who is passionate about this subject, this book is going to be on their short list. It's going to be on their library. It's going to be the 5 or 6 books that they're going to read about it. Think and Grow Rich, the all-time best-selling personal growth book, 70 million copies sold, maybe more, I think more than that, frankly. It says over 15 million copies sold worldwide. That's absolutely not true. There are many more tens of millions of books that have been sold of this book. Bottom line is, great title. You know what the original title was? 1937, Napoleon Hill has written this book, and the story of how he wrote it and where he lived when he wrote it. That story, remarkable story. I'm not going to tell that story to you today, but I just want you to know that nobody has written a book, a best-selling book like this, under worse circumstances. So there is no excuse for you. No matter what your circumstances are, no matter what your health issues are, no matter what your relationship issues are, you can do this. If Napoleon Hill can do this, he can write this book, becomes the all-time best-selling book in history on personal growth. When you read his autobiography or his biography, you'd be shocked how many failures he experienced before this book appeared. And this book, original title was How to Make a Boodle with Your Noodle. See how that title wouldn't work? Think and Grow Rich did. Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. What a book. Content of this book is powerful. I think I underlined half of every page of this entire book. There's just so much meat in here. Just powerful, powerful stuff. But the title is pretty simple. A Guide to Spiritual Enlightenment. And if you like spirituality, this is going to be on your nightstand, right? Over 2 million copies sold, and that's an old number. I'm sure it's much, much more than that. But the reason it sold 2 million, because the title fits. It's perfect, right? The Millionaire Next Door, the surprising secrets of America's wealthy. The people next door, they're millionaires and you don't even know it. You know why? Because they don't act like millionaires. Because being rich is more important than looking rich. And therefore they don't look rich, but they are rich. And boy, people talk about this subject. This has been out for 20, 25 years. Powerful book, powerful title, The Millionaire Next Door. Simple, right? 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, over 40 million copies sold. Can you believe that? 40 million copies. 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. I've got a little bit of the story of my success. It kind of aligns a little bit with this book, but very powerful, very simple numbers in this particular title. 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Huge, huge bestseller. How to Win Friends and Influence People. This has been out there for 50 plus years. Simple title, the 80th anniversary edition. Sorry, not 50 years, 80 years. The timeless bestseller. No kidding. I read this one when I was in my early 20s. How to Win Friends and Influence People. If you want relationships, this is going to be on your short list. It's going to be one of the ones you're going to have to read. I'm going to challenge you to think like this. How can I write a book that resonates with people 80 years later? Yeah, because it's simple, it's basic, it's powerful. That's when, as soon as I saw this title, had to have it. Immediately bought it. Mindset, the New Psychology of Success. And it's scientific and it's based on really cutting edge research about how the mind works, how we can learn to fulfill our potential. 1.8 million copies in print. That makes her a multi-millionaire. And for the rest of her life, she can go anywhere and speak to any audience and earn a huge speaking fee. Wow, great title. Influence by Cialdini, The Psychology of Persuasion. A lot of people are in sales. They want to learn how to persuade anybody. 6 fundamental principles. This book itself has made me at least $10 million. Given to me by an employee that worked for both me and for Tony Robbins back in the late 80s. And Tim gave me a copy of this book, and Tim Martin. Thank you, Tim. This book has made me at least $10 million. Why? Because as I'm promoting my subject matter, my seminars and things around the world, I couldn't sell. I was horrible at selling. And then I read this book. From that moment forward, I knew that it wasn't about me. It never is about me. It's about what I say and how I set up the influence process. And this one has sold big time, huge bestseller, mainly because of word of mouth. Did you hear my word of mouth on this? If you're into any kind of success thinking, you need to read this book, period. End of story. Do I earn any royalties from sharing this book with you? No, I don't. My royalty is the fact that I'm passing on to you what has transformed my life. So a lot of books have changed my life. These books have transformed millions. And in this book, Nothing Down, has transformed millions of lives as well. You know, see, I have a burst there, the all-time best-selling real estate book, now completely revised and updated, the all-time best-selling real estate investment book. There is no book that has sold more hardcovers than this book right here. Well over 1 million copies and in all kinds of languages around the world. Now, this title is a great title, but it wasn't the only thing I did to promote it. And so I'm going to share with you the secret behind this title. In fact, I shared a part of the story with you the other day in the previous session. The fact that I got on the phone with my editor, Sam Meyerson at Simon & Schuster, who is the editor of all the great real estate books. And he's now the editor of this one as well. And he called me on the phone and asked me to review an ad he was going to run in the Wall Street Journal to promote this book. And he read the ad to me, and I said to myself, that's not going to work. No, nobody's going to buy my book. It has to be more powerful. It has to be more powerful than Nothing Down, because I'm trying to market this book. I need to give a promise that's so strong that anybody would respond to it. And so he said, like what, young kid? And I was just a young kid, and he'd been at it for 30, 40 years. And so this is my first book, and this was his 1,000th book. And I said, well, we have to demonstrate. We have to show proof that this works. He said, like what? And I remember standing in my son's bedroom. I can still see it on Pebble Lane in Provo, Utah. And I'm standing in his bedroom, and the bedroom was downstairs, and I'm standing next to the bunk bed, and I'm talking to my editor, and he says, like what? And I said, like send me to a city, take away my wallet so we can prove I have nothing, and let me buy a property within, like, say 30 days. No, that's too long. A week? No, that's 3 days. 72 hours. It sounds better when you say 72 hours. Send me to any city, take away my wallet, give me a $100 bill, and in 72 hours, I'll buy an excellent piece of real estate using none of my own money. And he said to me, can you do that? I had never done that before. I had to fib a little bit. I believed that I could do that, but I had never done it before. And he said, well, if you can do that, we'll put that in our advertisement in the Wall Street Journal. And it was that extra push of running that ad in the seminars we did around the United States that really put me on the top. That's what made Nothing Down the #1 best-selling book, because I completed that challenge with the Los Angeles Times. And here is the Los Angeles Times article with a picture of me with a reporter reporting him going with me to San Francisco and taking my wallet and giving me $5 $20 bills. And within 57 hours, I gave up after 57 hours because I was exhausted. I bought 7 properties. They only reported 6 in this article, but I bought 7. And the article, you see in the picture down below, the circled part is the advertisement that I'd been running in the Los Angeles Times. There is a copy of the picture of Nothing Down in the heading of the full page ad in the Los Angeles Times. But my, send me to any city in the United States, take away my wallet. That's the headline that he ran in the Wall Street Journal. And it worked so well that we started using it for our seminars. So for the next several years, when we ran a seminar in a city, we ran that headline. And people came to my free seminar. And they would find out it was a $500 seminar. And they would go, I can't afford $500. So they would go to the bookstore and spend $15.95 for one of my books. And therefore, as we went around the country, we were generating sales in 2 or 3 major major cities every single week. And therefore, keep that up for 5 years. And yeah, you're going to be a bestseller. You're going to make, my book was 57 weeks on the New York Times bestseller list, finally hitting #1. But it didn't hit #1 immediately. It took a few months. And then finally, when Creating Wealth came out, also a 1 million copy, #1 New York Times bestseller, it was 24 weeks on the bestseller list, on the New York Times bestseller. So with that and all the other books that I've written, we've been about 100 weeks on the bestseller list of the world. This is the Mount Everest of bestseller lists. But the secret behind the scenes you need to know is that there was a lot of promotion. There was a lot of marketing going on behind the scenes. The publisher only does it for a short period of time. And usually they don't spend a lot of money on advertising. In this case, they spent money in the Wall Street Journal to kind of give it a kickstart. But after that, they've got other books to promote. Your book falls off their list. It's done now. It's been promoted. Off to the next challenge. And that's what publishers do. They're looking for the home run. This was a home run. How do I know that? Because 40 years later, I still get royalties from both Creating Wealth and Nothing Down. Not a whole lot. It's $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 every 6 months. But it's work that I did 40 years ago. And I've been earning streams of income from these books ever since. So this is the kind of thinking I want you to go through. These are pictures of the article that came out in the Los Angeles Times with the book, with the properties that I bought using the $100 in cash that the LA Times reporter gave me. And we bought 6 properties in 57 hours. And I told you there actually was 7 properties that I bought. But the reporter didn't get the final one into his final story. So the reason I'm sharing with you examples of other best-selling titles is they solve urgent problems or burning passions. And I want you, when you create your title, I want you to be thinking about these 2 fundamental essences. It's only in the last, 5, 6, 8 years that I've really come to realize why some of my titles didn't sell. And mainly it's because of this, what I'm teaching you. I really didn't ask myself these 2 questions when I wrote the titles for some of my books. Some of them did well. 4 of them, did over 1 million copies, but 6 of them didn't. And there was a lot of work that would have needed to go into my own titles. So I'm trying to share with you what I've learned from 40 years of experience doing this. So create your book cover. I want you to create it showing your book cover, your title, your name, the quote you put on it, starburst if you want. But I want you to literally, at the end of this session, draw out what your title looks like. Draw it out physically first. No matter how bad your writing or your art might be, some of you will be great at it. A few of you will feel embarrassed about the way it looks. So you go to canva.com. But this is not I don't earn any money by recommending that you come to this because it's free. And when you go to canva.com, you're going to look for book cover design, because you can design all kinds of things on this site. Posters and presentations and Instagram posts and all kinds of things. So scan around until you get the book cover. Click on that, and it'll take you to the various different templates that you're going to choose from. So you scan down and look, I want my cover to kind of look like this. And then you'll choose that as a template, and you'll start to design your cover. Now, in a recent class that I taught called Idea to Income that you'll learn more about later on, this is Michelle Hanchey's cover. She designed this on Canva. She spent 0 money on this. She felt this would be a good cover for it. Look at this quote. This is a quote actually from her husband, Warren. "You are a guinea pig in the biggest health experiment in the history of mankind." And what is that experiment? The 5G. You got your cell phone? Is it 5G? What they're trying to say is there are a lot of hidden dangers to 5G. The shocking truth behind 5G. I'm so proud of her because all by herself, she designed this cover, and it looks great, in my opinion. It looks professional. It doesn't look self-published. And she did this on her own. I'm going to challenge you to do the same thing on your own, right? Here is Dale Johnson, who's an MBA, MA, Marco Polo effect. Dramatically increase sales by crossing borders. You want to ship your products around the world internationally? He designed this by himself. Now, could it be better? Could it be more professional? Would an artist maybe do a different version of it? Of course. But this is pretty darn good. This looks professional, frankly. This is Kevin Rand, who is in the baseball world. And he's been in that world for decades and knows lots of famous baseball players. And he wants to talk about his experience in the baseball world. Diamonds from the dugout, he calls it. And he shows pictures of some people that he's done business with before in the past and even currently today. He's involved in the business world, in the baseball world right now. So this was his title. And this was he designed this, just selected this as a template, put some photos in there, put his name on it, put his cover on it. Now it starts to look real. See, the purpose for this for you is to make it look real, to make it look so that you go to yourself, you know what? I need to get this done. In my mind, it's already finished. So I need to get the work done, the words written, the marketing figured out. I want you to test your title. How do you test it? Well, you can create a title, but it more than likely will not be the final title. So remember, stupid mistake number 7 is don't have a boring title with a weak promise. I want you to test it. Remember, I talked about it in the very first session about Zipf's law. When you test your title with an audience of 100, 200, 500 people, they're going to come up with the best-selling title. Zipf's law says that the winning title will often get twice as many votes or more than the title number 2. And it will have 3 times as many votes as title number 3. So if you test, say, 10 titles, one of them is going to be the winner, and number 2 is probably going to be about a half as good. And number 3 is going to be about a third as good. And number 4 is going to be about a fourth as good. In other words, when you test the right audience, they will resonate with the title. And you don't have the right to market your book until the world has told you this is the right title for you. When I promoted this book, Multiple Streams of Income, this title right here, you'll notice it, Multiple Streams of Income, How to Generate a Lifetime of Unlimited Wealth. Now, Multiple Streams of Income, I kind of sensed that was going to be a winning title. I just knew it. Didn't do a lot of testing on that. But the subtitle, sometimes the subtitle is a really important part of it. And I created what I thought was a great subtitle. And I tested my audience. I had emails of many of my students and telephone numbers and addresses. And so I asked my students, tell me what your vote would be. And this was one of maybe 6 or 7 subtitles that I was testing. And my subtitle, the one I thought was great, got 0 response. And the one that I hated and still do to this day is How to Generate a Lifetime of Unlimited Wealth. I didn't like it. But I'm not the one that I'm trying to attract. I may not be the avatar. What I wanted to find out, what did my students want to learn? And this title won big time. And therefore, that's why it's on the book today. And it's been on the book ever since it came out in the year 2000. So this has been out there for a couple of decades because I did some testing. And I'm going to challenge you to do the same thing, to test. No test, just doesn't seem to work, right? So that's what Zipf's law is. It just lets you know that generally speaking, the best title is usually magnitudes better than the second place. That's not always the case. Sometimes they are much more, and sometimes that they're kind of neck and neck. But if they're neck and neck, then you need to throw those 2 titles against 4 or 5 other different titles to see whether or not these 2 still stand out, right? So my challenge to you is get out the word and let people help you. This is an email I sent to my database of 10,000 people, 20,000 people actually. Please help me choose a title for my next bestseller. Free book as a reward. And I'm basically saying, I'm Robert Allen. I've been working like crazy on a new ebook, and I'd be so grateful if you'd help me decide on a winning title. I'm basically saying, here are some titles that you can choose from. And I gave them a choice of 5 or 6 titles to select. And I wanted to select 2. The 2 major ones that I was trying to select from were the $1 Million Mind Shift and the Idea to Income. Now, I like $1 Million Mind Shift because as we were starting off, that resonated with me. I kind of like that thinking, $1 Million Mind Shift. And then how to turn that $1 million into real money, right? Guess what? My vote didn't work. We had marketed at $1 Million Mind Shift in a beginning class we called Idea to Income. And the people didn't respond to it. They thought, no, don't like that title. They did like the Idea to Income title. So when the final time came for us to release this book, you may have a copy of this book. If not, you'll be finding out how I get you a copy of it. Bottom line was Idea to Income, 8 steps to turn your ideas into exponential income. This seemed to work. And the testing proved it for me. Now, there's sometimes a title has been actually released under a certain title, and it doesn't sell as well as they thought it would. Now, the creator of the Compact Classics had a brilliant idea Compact Classics. It's got an alliteration going there, CC. Inside there are 1 or 2 page summaries of some of the greatest books ever written. The Scarlet Letter, Anna Karenina, Of Mice and Men. The entire book has been summarized into 1 page summaries. And so if you want to read about mice and men, you just read 1 page summary and you know about as much as the ordinary person has remembered from the book they read in high school, right? Tale of Two Cities by Charles Dickens. Travels of Marco Polo. I just read that book myself. Fantastic book. Last of the Mohicans. Rime of the Ancient Mariner. Moby Dick. Old Man in the Sea by Ernest Hemingway. Wouldn't you like to read some of these titles? Well, the title, Compact Classics, just wasn't resonating. They hadn't done a lot of testing. And they decided to go totally the opposite direction. Instead of being respectable, like Compact Classics, they decided to be, well, let me show you the title and tell me what you think. This is the new title, which has sold millions of copies and is found in the homes of millions of people as they read 1 book at a time, sitting, well, as it's called, the bathroom book, version 1, single sitting summaries of all-time great books, volume 1. There's volume 2, volume 3, volume 4, and Compact Classics presents. It's been promoted in other countries. This is the one in the UK, passing time in the Loo. And once again, huge seller there. The title didn't work. And sometimes you have to have a title that resonates with your reader, not with the way you want to look. And I'm sure that the creator wanted to look really professional and wanted to look classic, like Compact Classics. Just didn't sell. It still sells, by the way. Both books are still available to be purchased on Amazon.com. If you want the Compact Classics, you can get that version. If you want the bathroom book, you can get this version. Now, in our Idea to Income class, we challenge people to test titles. So here are 3 covers. They've been produced by a professional, and Michael, one of our students, had people vote on these 3 titles. So why don't you vote? Which of these 3 titles resonates with you? I'm going to tell you the results right now. I'll tell you whether or not you fit the major group of people. Here's what he did. I requested the book designer to create a book that jumped off the bookstore table with the pain of divorce and instantly state the message and the promise of the book. So remember, the book is Your Home in Divorce, Real Estate Insider Secrets to Reduce Stress and Increase Profits. Okay. Several cover tests went out to my email subscribers and Facebook followers, also to 3 Facebook divorce groups with 5,000 to 10,000 followers. I asked which cover gets their first attention. And they responded. And guess which one won? Well, here are the 3 titles again, the 3 covers. Here is the response in his email to me. The all red background cover won the first test with over 80% of the votes, with comments that it immediately caught their attention. It was also the first in the row. The red cover with the white background banner got about 15% and comments that it was the clearest to read. All right, so let's look at that again. The all red one to the right was the one that got 80% of the votes because it was the first in line. So it was the first book they saw. They saw other books after that, but because it was first, it got most of the votes. Now, when they switched it, so the one on the left that you can see there with the white background, when it came first and the other one went last, the white cover got slightly more votes than the red cover. And so they were very equal, very, very close in the results. So that requires some more testing because now it tells you the title works, but maybe the cover, the color needs to be tweaked. So it was also in the first of the row. So the blue cover, the blue cover comments were that it is less angry and hostile and showed more warmth and hope. Mental health industry like this blue cover. The second test resulted in the red cover with the white background banner in first position, getting most votes by a hair, and the all red cover in close second. So now sometimes, you see, when you're doing your testing, you have to test more than just the cover. You have to test the position. And so when you're sending out tests to your audience, you should probably change the position of the way the list of your titles is, so it's not the first position that gets most of the votes just because it's in that position. All right, so it's a little more scientific than most people will go to the effort of, right? So your assignment is to create your title, design your cover, go to canva.com. I want you to create the cover, show it to your spouse, show it to your family members. Say, this is the title. Maybe create a couple of covers, like Michael did on this last group. Michael Williamson, create a couple of covers. It's free, it's easy to do. Show people different covers with different titles. And then I want you to survey 100 people. I want you to find out, how does your title and book cover rank? Which one seems to be the best? And that's your homework assignment. Now, you don't have to do this assignment. Did I do this assignment myself when I wrote nothing down? No. Did I do it when I wrote Creating Wealth? No. Did I do it when I wrote The Challenge? No. The first two titles, I just knew they were the ones. Almost like I knew it, like intuitively, I knew. But The Challenge, there was a little discussion going on with the publisher on that one. Because I do these challenges, send me to any unemployment line, let me select someone who's broke, out of work, and discouraged, and in 2 days' time, I'll teach them the secrets of wealth. In 90 days, they'll be back on their feet with $5,000 cash in the bank, never to set foot in an unemployment line again. That was the subtitle for the book, The Challenge. Terrible title. And it showed. Very few people bought that book. Now, I'll tell you how I recovered from that later on in our series. But what I'm trying to say is I should have done some testing on that, and I didn't. And it showed. Simon & Schuster wrote me a $500,000 check to write that third book, because my first two books had been million-copy bestsellers. The third book bombed. It bombed so badly that they gave me the rights back to the book. They said, we don't want it anymore. You can have it. But I redeemed myself. There was something that I did intuitively that turned it into one of my most profitable books I have ever written. I'll share that with you later. What I'm trying to say is what I missed doing was testing. It was a terrible title, just flat out terrible. So as you go through this checklist, make sure you do every step on this checklist, like the pilot checks his plane out. Make sure your message is right and is fun, is interesting and grabbing. Who do you want to, whose lives do you want to change? And then what about your hook? That goes into your title, right? In our next session, we're going to talk about how you map out the journey for your reader. I'll see you there. I wish you all have wish you, as you create this, get excited about it, resonate with this dream of you becoming a best-selling author, because it's going to happen if you just do what I tell you to do. My best to you. Have a wonderful day. I'll see you in session number 4. Bye-bye.